Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel. And today it's a really special day for my sister and me because it's her birthday. And also I'm gonna tell a story and it's called David the Shepherd Boy. That's all I can say for now. And also I'll be telling few lessons at the end and hope you enjoy. And before we start, we're gonna do a simple birthday message and a prayer before we start our beautiful story. And here's the birthday message. Dear sister, I hope you have a good birthday and a good time. And also, all the memories that we've done together and so many things. And we will always keep in mind on everything we've done together. And that you've made me happy for so many times already. And that's all I want to say.
Your wish.
And my wishes for you is that you have a good birthday and good life. Okay. Now let's start our story. Can mind if I sit down?
Graciously Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Give us lots of blessings. Make my family strong. And make this day special. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay. Long ago, there lived a man named Jesse. He had 8 sons, and all of them were special to him. One was named David, one of the special sons Jesse had. He was so lucky to have him. Well, I'll explain who David was. David was a shepherd boy who tended a lot of sheep, more than 10 or 5. And he was a really responsible boy in his family. And so, Jesse was proud of David, but that didn't stop him for loving his other sons. And one day, a prophet named Samuel came to visit Jesse. Want to know the reason? It was because the Lord told him to visit there, and sadly there was no transportation that time, so he had to walk there, but it didn't matter. Finally, he reached the place where David and his father lived, and then he said, there would be one of your sons will be king someday, and I just want to know who. And then Jesse said, all right. So he looked around the room and saw not a lot of his sons. And he said, are you sure this is all of your sons? I heard that you had 8 of them. And then he said, oh wait, I'll call my youngest one. And he called David into the room. And then David asked what was happening. And so Jesse said to his son that a prophet named Samuel came to visit. And so David agreed. And Samuel finally understood who was the new king. But he didn't really say it. And then he poured some oil on David's head, as I remember. And he saw that David was the chosen one. And all of his brothers were jealous because they understood what was happening, except Jesse. And Jesse kept on saying that time, what about my oldest or my very independent one? But Samuel thought could be David, and it turned out to be him. So he left. And David continued tending his sheep, and his brothers were just too jealous, and they continued all of their lifestyle. And after a few years, the Philistines came to attack at all of the people who lived there, including Jesse's family, because they were part of that land which the Philistines wanted to go at. And so David's brothers decided to go into war because they said, why not? It'll be so easy anyways. And then they went into war. David really wanted to come, but he wasn't allowed to because he was too short. And so he just continued tending his sheep as usual while his brothers had to have fun there at the campsite of And it didn't really turn out to be that well anyways. And so, yeah, that's just what happened. And then I'm like, continue the story for now. Okay, then after that, David's father, Jesse, noticed that, noticed that maybe his sons were hungry. So he decided to say, David, why don't you bring some food to your brothers? And then he said, oh sure, why not? So David's father packed loads of good stuff and then he sent it to all of his brothers. It wasn't really that far, though it was a bit. And so he finally reached the campsite where his brothers took place in, and he found his brothers and said, what's wrong? Why are you all scared? And they explained why, and David understood. It was basically because there was a giant named Goliath, and he was really, really big. Bigger than David. Oh, thank you. Bigger than David and anything that he could imagine. Like, David didn't really know how big Goliath was. Sorry, my throat is hurt. Okay, and so David noticed and didn't really care. He felt very fine to go in war, even though it was so big. He was not afraid at all. And so next morning, his brothers enjoyed the meal that his brother gave him, who was David. David went to the nearest river and collected some pebbles. And yeah, that's what happened. And then after that, he went back to the campsite and noticed that all of his brothers were in war, including of the other soldiers, while King Saul was looking far away in the distance, looking right at the army. And he noticed that there was no giant yet. But then suddenly, after a few minutes, the giant finally came and said it was ready for war. But then the Philistines the Israelite soldiers were just too scared, so they ran away again. But then David stepped into action and showed him all of his gear, and he got prepared. And before that, I'll tell you what happened at the time when David was at the campsite. When I told you about King Saul, I didn't really mention about who he was. But he was the first king, but he wasn't really the first king like God is. But yeah, he was the first king on earth, and David was walking around near King Saul, and King Saul saw him, and then David explained how he badly wanted to go in war, pointing at it, and King Saul basically agreed, and so David was agreed to go in war. But then suddenly King Saul said he had to wear some armor. David tried to explain that he didn't really need some, but then King Saul told him to try out so many other armors like helmets, shields, spears, but they were too heavy and too big to fit on David. So then David just said he'd go on his own. He rushed out of the place where King Saul was in, and then King Saul was like, wait, come back. And then David went to the battlefield and noticed that there's no soldiers left, none except him. And then Goliath said, I need a tasty dinner today. I need to attack some more Israelites. But then he didn't get what he wanted. He got David, who was just too small for him. And he said it would be too easy to just defeat him. All of the Israelites were just depending on him. They didn't really know what was going on. But then David was like, Goliath, I'll defeat you. And then Goliath, in his head, he was wondering how he knew his name. But that didn't matter. He just focused, and then he said, oh really, you sure? I need some more stronger Israelites than you. You're just too small for me to defeat, and I bet I'll have a very nice victory after this. You'll regret this, Mr. Shepherd Boy. That's what David called, but this is what Goliath called David, because he had no idea what his name was. And then so they started fighting, but Goliath didn't know that David had the Lord with him. I really want to eat this, but yeah.
I need it now.
No thanks.
Eat it.
No thanks. Wait, my throat hurts. Okay. And so after that, Goliath was defeated. And I'll tell you how David defeated Goliath. He was doing all those stuff that he learned in his life, anything just to protect himself. Then he used the slingshot and the pebbles I said earlier, where he took from the nearest pond before. If you don't remember that, why don't you turn it back? But yes, he used those pebbles and then threw it at Goliath like this, shing, 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 bam! And then yeah, Goliath died, and so David was like cheering, everyone's cheering in it. David's brothers carried him and like threw him in the air, and then everyone was like, David, David, David. King Saul was pretty proud, hired David as his I don't know what's this called, but yeah, to play music for King Saul, because
Harp.
oh yeah, the harp, yeah. It was not like those big ones you see. It's like those small ones David could use. And yeah, he was hired to do that, and King Saul had to do this because he had some issues on something, like probably is getting annoyed easily. And so yes, after that, King Saul just got too aggressive and so angry because David was getting a lot of attention over him, because they were saying, David, you'll be our next king soon after Saul's dead. And then like all of that, and then Saul was furious. He was like screaming like, no, 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 David can't be the next king. He was like too angry that he fired David from playing the harp and other stuff. But good luck, for some good parts is that while David was playing the harp, King Saul suddenly threw a spear at him, but luckily he dodged it, and his friend, who was King Saul's son, helped him escape, and he couldn't come back to Israel for a long, long time. He hid behind a rock, but then he started to leave. And then after that, King Saul was wanting to get his revenge on David. It's been years, and David like grew up already, and so King Saul set up an army and a camp to stay in the night. And then he started to rest at night. He hired some soldiers to help him guard, but sadly his soldiers didn't make through the night. And then after that, David sprang into action. He took his spear and water jug, but his fellow friends that he met along said, why don't you just kill Saul? And then David said, no, it wouldn't be the right thing to do. And so David didn't kill Saul, even though he had an opportunity to. And so David hid behind the hills and started to make a camp for himself. And then in the morning, Saul said, where's my spear and water jug? And then his soldier said, I don't know, I have no idea where. And then David said, looking for this? And then King Saul was surprised, and David explained everything. Saul felt guilty because even though David had the opportunity to kill him, he didn't. And so Saul felt bad and didn't try to kill David anymore. His soldiers went back home, and so did he. And then a new army came that was going for Saul, and then they started to attack, but then Saul lost and then killed himself because he was just too tired because he lost already. And then after that, David became new king was when Saul died. And he was a good king at first, but then after a few moments, he started to turn bad. He didn't really care about his people anymore, and when he met Bathsheba, everything went worse. He met Bathsheba while she was taking a bath. That's why she's called Bathsheba, and I don't know why, but why am I talking so fast that time? That was Bathsheba. Okay.
She's the bat.
Okay, so after that, David got married to Bathsheba, and then after that, Bathsheba told David to start partying more and not really.
But Uriah.
Oh yeah, about that, Uriah was Bathsheba's husband, and they got married for like a few years, but then after that, David planned to kill him because he wanted Bathsheba so bad. And so he killed Uriah while he wasn't looking at the battlefield, I think.
He sent.
Yeah, he sent Uriah there. And then after that, when Uriah was killed, David took Bathsheba, and Bathsheba started telling David to party more and not really care about God. And so David did so. He started enjoying it for a few whiles, and then one day he went to the priest of the Ark of the Covenant and said, I'll go carry the Ark of the Covenant of where it belongs at its new temple. And then they said, I'm sorry, David, you're not the chosen one anymore, because they explained the reason. And David felt so ashamed. He didn't really like Bathsheba anymore and known how foolish he was now. And so he now finally understood why. And so then David started to become a good king, repented so many times, and write so many poems to God to show how sorry he was. He broke up with Bathsheba and all these other wives he had. That's what I think. And David became a very nice man from now on. The end.
Later, can we do Solomon?
Oh wait, sorry, that's not the end yet. And then he ruled all of his people nicely. He provided them with food. He started praising God more, and so many other good things a king would do. And also, he was finally forgiven by God, and he was able to carry the Ark of the Covenant again. And God was very proud at David, and of David, and David continued to be a better servant to God. And not only he would just admire his riches all day, he would also share some to God too. And he would start going to the temples more to praise him. And everyone loved David of how a good king he was. And they kept on giving compliments to David of a nice king he was, because they haven't really had a good king in years. And David, I forgot to mention, David was the second king of Israel. And also, he also had a son from Bathsheba who was named Solomon. He would soon grow up one day to be a very wise king. But that is next time. And also, even though his son Solomon didn't grow up without a mother in his life, he still became one really happy boy, even though he wasn't with his mother. And he grew up to be very wise, and so many things. He even built a temple for God, met a wise woman from a different place, and asked him questions. Wait, should I also do the Solomon?
No.
Oh, yeah, I'm just describing. And he was a really nice man, and he also had a family in the future, I think. That's what I think.
Maybe.
And everyone loved him. And he was also the third king. Like David was second, and Solomon is third, and I wonder who's fourth. Maybe Solomon's child, who knows. And also, that time David was pretty ill. The end. I'll give a bit of lessons at the end. Don't judge by the size. And like David, he was judged by his size by his father, because he was too small. But you only have to judge by the personality and how courage they are, like that. If they're willing to do it so bad, I think you have to let them do it.
God's calling.
Yeah. And when God says it's the right one, it's one. And also, you don't have to be jealous by someone who's getting more praises than you. Like King Saul, he was just too angry. King Saul is also loved. He just has to let David be loved too, because David also did a very nice thing. And also, don't marry the right person. Even though you're getting affectionate to them, like you really like them, you have to make sure they're a good person, likes God, believes in Him, and they're a Christian. I think that's the perfect woman for you. Like, remember in our Samson story, that's like one of our lessons there. And also,
He stole Bathsheba. That's
oh yeah, and also, don't steal any other people's wife. Like, he stole Uriah's wife. That is so weird. And also,
Yeah, because Bathsheba was taking a bath, so David
David.
called her now Bathsheba.
Okay, and don't accept any bad offers. Like Bathsheba, she begged David to party all the time, drink wine. If I were David, I'd like not do this because that's bad and banish her
like-
from the kingdom.
I would just like
That's what
do
I do.
something like normal if she asked me to just go outside like that.
Okay.
Just go outside.
Okay, and also don't be like Goliath, how he was like judging by David's side, and then eventually Goliath ended up bad time.
How long has this
And
been?
so yeah,
Has it been an
that's
hour?
most of all the lessons I
Look
have
at this.
known,
We
and
have
hope you
chocolate.
enjoy the story and hope you follow these lessons and
you
it
don't
will
subs-
lead you good.
Wait, can I?
Sure.
If you don't subscribe, you're not getting a chocolate.
Was David forgiven?
Yeah, he was really forgiven by God because he kept on writing
Subscribe
poems.
and get chocolate.
You know he wrote the songs.
We will visit your
Oh,
house
yeah.
and give you all the chocolate. A birthday chocolate.
And so God liked David and loved him now, even though he was a bad person at the past. He just told him to move on and don't really remember about everything. And so he was forgiven.
Look at this yummy chocolate skis.
Bye-bye, everybody. This chocolates were mine. Where's mine? Oh no! Where's my chocolate?
Stand up.
Ah! Okay, it's gone. Oh, I can just get a new one. Oh, I found it. I found it. I found it. Yum! I can eat this now. Yay! Yum.
Yippee.
Okay, and so about my sister's birthday, like I want to probably celebrate by going to eat out or something like that, or just go on having fun. And also, I wonder what present she has. This is one of ours. It's like these little combs. I like it. And I'm just gonna eat my chocolate. Wait.
Okay, sing a song.
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me.
Eating. Okay, just wait.
Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Your wish.
And I want me to have a long life. To make this birthday special. That's it. That's my wish.
Bye-bye.